I guess you could say, you know, if you're going to be on the outside, turn one, Turkey in the wet, you're running a risk of somebody doing exactly what Pierre Gasly did to Fernando. But he said, I was sandwiched between the two cars, which is what Nigel Mansell said at the 84 Detroit Grand Prix when Prost and Piquet sandwiched him off the line. He was a sort of innocent bystander in the middle, and there was a shunt. And afterwards, Bernie Ecclestone wanted Nigel to be banned for a year and fined $100,000 from memory. I think he got a $10,000 fine in the end. So, Pierre, you know, be careful what you say about being sandwiched. Bernie Ecclestone, Detroit 84. Yeah, no, that was never going to happen. But I will say this, and I've said it before, you know, I'm not saying that Jackie Stewart is right about everything. And I know a lot of people will say, well, what is the relevance? But Jackie makes a very good point about preparation for the first corner of a Grand Prix, which is that you want to be absolutely neutral in everything so that your body is 100% reactive to everything that's going to happen around it, and everything is instinctive. That's all you can do. You can't plan anything. I know Lewis was saying, shall I go on the inside or the outside at the first corner? But, you know, Lewis, believe me, would have just been in there reacting instinctively. And to do that, Jackie always tried to drain himself of emotion, of thought, and to be as calm as possible he got in the car. A complete counterpoint to doing reflex tests just before you get in the car, which does nothing other than heighten the senses in the brain and start the adrenaline pumping and the pulse rate. And, you know, we need to look at it more carefully, but Pierre Gasly does get involved in his fair share of first corner incidents. He will say very few of them are his fault, and it's always a result of qualifying where he does and being in the middle of that high midfield shunt. But he's not in a position often to predict what's going to happen and get away from it. And same thing today. And I wonder, I'd just be really interested to see Pierre's record over the remaining races if he didn't do all this stuff with the balls in the air, the juggling, etc., the reflex tests with the trainer just before he gets in the car. Do nothing at all, get in the car and just see what his record is like going into first corners in this last phase of the race. It'd be an interesting test, wouldn't it? Won't happen, of course, because drivers do what they do and they think that they've got the right solution on everything. Which actually takes me back to Valtteri Bottas, because I think I should make another point about Valtteri, which was that when he was in his Williams days and early Mercedes days, he was very conscientious about being self-critical and learning and improving on areas that were not working as well as the other driver in the other car. And then recently, over the last 5 years, he hasn't been doing that. He's been working on a lot of other things, for sure. He's been working in the simulator, he's been doing this, he's been doing that, fitness, whatever. But what he hasn't been doing is working on things like the rate at which he comes out of the brake pedal pressure, how he comes out of the brake pedal pressure, how he loads up the steering, when he brakes, how does he create a lovely square area to have the car sitting on the road before a change of direction. All those little things that Lewis does so well, none of which you can learn on a simulator. And he hasn't been doing that. And I think that's also another reason that when the Mercedes hasn't been great before the change of the rear sidewalls, he was struggling against Lewis and as a result has lost his drive. And he will be thinking now, yeah, I've shown them, I'm as good as anybody in the world. I've won in difficult conditions, blitzed the race. But then you'll be thinking, but I've lost the drive. Not a great feeling. And, of course he'll be positive and he'll be thinking Alfa Romeo next year, we'll turn the team around, it'll be great working with Ferrari, great brand, and, I can be number one, all the things that he would be thinking. But it's a shame, actually, isn't it? When you see how well he drove today for Mercedes and the job he did, absolutely perfect job, because without him it would have been a 1-2 for Red Bull on a weekend when Lewis obviously had that problem, the grid penalty. It's a shame that he isn't staying with Mercedes, you could argue, because as Lewis has been saying all along, he is kind of the perfect teammate. Anyway, it'll be George Russell next year, and that's a completely different deal, as I touched upon yesterday, but we'll touch upon it a lot more over the winter. So.